In the annals of American crime, certain cases grip the nation's attention, leaving an indelible mark on our collective memory. These are the stories that captivate us, drawing us into a world of mystery and intrigue, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs. They are the tales that make us question the safety of our own lives, the security of our own homes. These are the stories that haunt our dreams, the unsolved mysteries that linger long after the headlines fade. They become part of our cultural fabric, whispered about in hushed tones, dissected in true crime documentaries, and speculated upon in online forums. The fear they instill is not just of the unknown perpetrator, but of the realization that such darkness can exist so close to home. Stillwater, a seemingly idyllic town nestled in the heartland, became synonymous with one such chilling tale: the Midnight Murders. This town, with its picturesque streets and close-knit community, seemed an unlikely setting for such horror. Yet, beneath its serene surface, a sinister force was at work, waiting to shatter the peace. What began as whispers of unease escalated into a full-blown nightmare as a string of brutal killings shattered the town's tranquility. The first victim was discovered on a cold, foggy night, her lifeless body found in an alleyway. The town was in shock, but it was only the beginning. As the body count rose, so did the fear and paranoia among the residents. 3 seemingly unconnected individuals, their lives brutally cut short, their stories forever intertwined by a web of unanswered questions. Each victim had their own life, their own dreams, and their own loved ones left behind to grapple with the loss. The community came together in grief, holding candlelight vigils and sharing memories of those they had lost. The midnight murders of Stillwater remain an open wound, a chilling reminder that even in the most peaceful corners of our world, darkness can lurk. The town's residents found themselves looking over their shoulders, locking their doors earlier and questioning the motives of even their closest neighbors. The sense of safety they once took for granted was gone. The weight of unsolved crimes hung heavy over Stillwater. Town meetings were filled with worried citizens demanding answers, local newspapers ran headlines that only deepened the sense of dread, and the police station became a symbol of the town's desperation for justice. The community's trust in law enforcement was tested as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, with no resolution in sight. A staggering 75% of homicides in the past decade remained unsolved, leaving a community trapped in a perpetual cycle of fear and uncertainty. The detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together evidence, following leads, and hoping for a breakthrough that would bring the killer to justice. But the Midnight Murders were unlike any case they had encountered before. The Midnight Murders, however, were different, their brutality unprecedented, their impact seismic. The killer's methods were calculated, leaving little evidence behind and taunting the authorities with their elusiveness. The detectives' frustration grew as each promising lead turned into a dead end, and the community's hope for closure began to wane. This wasn't just a series of isolated incidents, it was an assault on the very soul of Stillwater, a chilling testament to the vulnerability that lay hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. The town's identity was forever altered, its once bustling streets now eerily quiet at night, its residents haunted by the memories of those lost and the fear of who might be next. The idyllic facade of this once peaceful town crumbled, replaced by an undercurrent of fear that permeated every street corner, every late-night conversation, every shadow that danced in the darkness. The Midnight Murders left an indelible mark on Stillwater, a reminder that even in the most tranquil places, the spectre of violence can emerge, leaving a community forever changed. The Midnight Murders, as they came to be known, unfolded over a single terrifying summer. It was a season that would forever change the fabric of Stillwater, a small town that had always prided itself on its close-knit community and tranquil way of life. 3 victims, each murdered in the dead of night, each case bearing eerie similarities, yet frustratingly distinct in motive and execution. The town's police force, unaccustomed to dealing with such heinous crimes, found themselves overwhelmed and outmatched by the cunning of the perpetrator. The first victim, Margaret Anderson, a beloved schoolteacher known for her warm smile and dedication to her students, was found brutally slain in her own home. Her death was not just a loss to her family, but a blow to the entire community, which had always seen her as a pillar of kindness and stability. Her murder, as shocking as it was senseless, sent ripples of fear through the community. People who had once felt safe leaving their doors unlocked at night now double-checked their locks and peered nervously out their windows at the slightest sound. Had Stillwater's peaceful existence been a mere illusion, shattered by this act of unspeakable violence? The question lingered in the air, a dark cloud over the town's once sunny disposition. Parents held their children a little tighter, and neighbors who once greeted each other with friendly waves now exchanged wary glances. Days later, just as the initial shock began to subside, tragedy struck again. The town was still reeling from Margaret's death when the news broke of another murder, sending fresh waves of panic through the already shaken community. This time the victim was David Miller, a local mechanic known for his quick wit and generous spirit. David was the kind of person who would drop everything to help a friend in need, and his loss was felt deeply by those who knew him. Found in his auto shop, his murder bore chilling similarities to Margaret's, the same brutal efficiency, the same absence of forced entry, the same chilling silence from potential witnesses. The police were left with more questions than answers, and the town's sense of security continued to erode. The once dismissed whispers of a connection solidified into a chorus of fear. The townspeople, who had initially hoped that Margaret's murder was an isolated incident, now faced the grim reality that a serial killer might be among them. Stillwater was no longer a town grappling with a random act of violence. It was now held captive by a spectre of fear, the chilling realization that a killer walked among them. The sense of unease was palpable, and the once vibrant community events were now overshadowed by the looming threat. The town's residents found themselves looking over their shoulders, wondering who would be next and whether the killer was someone they knew and trusted. The fear that had been simmering beneath the surface of Stillwater life now boiled over. The once quiet town, known for its serene landscapes and close-knit community, was now a cauldron of anxiety and suspicion. The air was thick with unease, and every shadow seemed to hold a threat. The townspeople, who once greeted each other with warm smiles and friendly waves, now exchanged wary glances, their trust eroded by the creeping dread that had taken hold of their lives. The once familiar streets transformed into treacherous paths where every corner seemed to hide a lurking danger. The comforting glow of streetlights now cast long, sinister shadows, and the silence of the night was broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant bark of a dog. The town that had once been a safe haven now felt like a labyrinth of fear, where every step was taken with caution and every sound was a potential threat. The darkness punctuated by the imagined silhouette of the killer lying in wait. The fear of the unknown had transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary, and the mundane into the menacing. Every shadowy figure became a suspect, every unfamiliar face a potential threat. The townspeople's imaginations ran wild, fueled by the gruesome details of the murders that had shattered their sense of security. Parents walked their children to school, their eyes scanning the crowds, their minds replaying the gruesome details of the murders. The once routine walk to school had become a nerve-wracking ordeal, with parents clutching their children's hands tightly and casting anxious glances over their shoulders. The presence of police officers, meant to provide reassurance, only served as a stark reminder of the danger that lurked in their midst. Neighbors, once eager to lend a helping hand, now eyed each other with suspicion, the bonds of community strained by the insidious tendrils of fear. The friendly gatherings and casual conversations that had once defined Stillwater life were now replaced by tense interactions and distrustful glances. The sense of community that had been the town's strength was now its weakness, as fear and suspicion drove a wedge between friends and neighbors. The local police department, overwhelmed and outmatched, found themselves at the heart of a storm they were ill-equipped to weather. The small-town force, accustomed to dealing with minor disputes and petty crimes, was now faced with a challenge that tested their limits. The officers worked tirelessly, poring over evidence and following leads, but the elusive killer remained one step ahead, leaving the community in a state of perpetual fear. The pressure mounted with each passing day, the lack of answers fueling the growing discontent among the terrified townspeople. Public meetings became heated, with frustrated residents demanding answers and expressing their fears. The police, despite their best efforts, struggled to provide the reassurance the communities so desperately needed. The tension in the air was palpable as the town's collective anxiety reached a boiling point. The midnight murders became a macabre obsession, the talk of every dinner table, every late-night phone call, families huddled together discussing the latest developments and speculating about the identity of the killer. The fear that gripped the town was a constant presence, infiltrating every aspect of daily life and casting a dark shadow over even the most mundane activities. Every hushed conversation in the aisles of the local grocery store, the once bustling marketplace, where neighbors exchanged pleasantries and shared news, was now a place of whispered fears and furtive glances. The sense of community that had once been a source of comfort was now a reminder of the danger that lurked in their midst, as every interaction was tinged with suspicion and fear. The town, once a haven of peace and neighborly love, was now united by a shared sense of dread, their lives held hostage by the unknown. The fear that had taken hold of Stillwater was a powerful force, binding the community together in a way that nothing else could. The townspeople, despite their fear and suspicion, found solace in their shared experience, drawing strength from each other as they faced the darkness that had descended upon their once idyllic home.